What is up, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be going over the top 5 pros and cons of living or moving here to the state of Utah. Things that you should keep in mind, 5 reasons why you should move here, or 5 reasons that you might reconsider making a move here to the state of Utah. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jens Nilsson, and I'm a local real estate agent here in the state of Utah. Born and raised here in the state of Utah, I understand the culture, lifestyle, benefits, activities, things to do, and so much more. So I'm excited to share my experience and things that you should consider before making the switch here to Utah. Now, before we dive into it, if you have any other questions on topics that I might not have covered here in this video, here's my contact information. Let's get in touch, and I'm happy to answer any questions when it comes to Utah. Also, you can drop them down in the comments below, and I'm happy to answer those questions directly for you. So starting off, we are going over the 5 pros of why you should move here to the state of Utah. Number 1 is coming in at the overall economy for the state of Utah. Now, the US News recently ranked Utah to be number 1 in terms of its economy in the entire United States. Now, the 3 factors that they considered when doing these rankings were the business environment, job market, and economic growth. Now, while Utah might not be as large as California, Texas, or even Florida, its economy is still ranked number 1 for all of these opportunities. Recently, and in the upcoming years, many tech jobs have either relocated or brought some of their offices here to the state of Utah because of the job opportunities, the growth, and the tax benefits. Now that's gonna bring us to number 2, which is the competitive living costs here in the state of Utah. Now, I will preface that while the housing market has gone bonkers here in the state of Utah and rents have increased, they are still typically lower than the national average. When it comes to groceries, utilities, transportation, and much more, the state of Utah falls well below the national average in all of those categories. And yes, we might be experiencing some inflation and the increased costs of goods, but overall, the state of Utah does have a lower cost of living compared to some other states in the United States. Now that brings us to number 3, which are the favorable demographic trends. Here in the state of Utah, we have experienced tremendous growth and immigration to the state. Last year, Utah experienced some of the highest growth in terms of population increase than any other state here in the United States. It experienced roughly 2% increase, which outranked all the other ones. Now, a lot of people are deciding to move here to the state of Utah because there are a number of tech companies that are coming here, which are bringing great high-paying jobs. And with the cost of living here in the state of Utah being lower than the other states, your money goes a lot further than some of the other states. Another reason why people are moving here is that the crime rate is relatively low. Another thing to keep in mind is that the average age here in the state of Utah is relatively young compared to averages in other states. And lastly, Utahns are just very nice and friendly folks. Now, number 4 is my favorite, which are the abundant activities that you can do outdoors. In Utah, we have a wide variety of the different landscapes and ecosystems going from north all the way down to south. Up in the north and more on the east side of the state, you have mountains, trees, lakes, and greeneries. The forests here are very green and lush, which makes it very enjoyable for the outdoor adventurist. The other great thing is that down in southern Utah, we have all of the red rock and natural beauty down there. One of the other great reasons for Utah is that it features 5 national parks. You have Arches, Capitol Reef, Bryce, Canyonlands, and Zions. A lot of people come from not only all over the nation, but all over the world to see these 5 national parks here in the state of Utah. Another great thing about Utah is that we have all these festivals and fun activities, especially during the summertime. Most cities will have their festival days where they celebrate when they became a city or close to it. There will be carnival rides, activities, festivities, food, concerts, and so much more. So it is a lot of fun where you can bump around to all the different cities all within the summer and take advantage of the fun activities going on. And lastly, number 5 is the nice climate and enjoying 4 full seasons. Here in the state of Utah, we do have a wide variety of the different seasons from spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Now, while the spring and the summer might be a little bit shorter than some of the other states, our summers and our winters are a little bit longer, and you get to enjoy the full experience of them. A lot of people come from all over the world and all over the nation to enjoy Utah's snow, with tons and tons of ski resorts all up the canyons in the Utah mountains. Now, summers here in the state of Utah can get a little bit hot, but relatively for the most part, they're not as hot as a lot of the southern states. Temperatures will typically range from 85 to 95 at the hottest parts of the summer. And with Utah being a more dry state, you don't experience that massive humidity that you might would in some of the more coastal states. And lastly, with the winters here in Utah, you're not going to experience the humidity as well with some weird freezing. You're mainly going to have some more dry winters where you'll have some snow, but it's not going to be as wet. Now, that's going to bring us to our top 5 cons of why you should maybe consider not moving to the state of Utah. And like with number 5 of the pros is number 1 is the extreme weather here in the state of Utah. Utah can be very dry and extreme when it comes to its temperatures and weather. In the summertime, you're going to experience a long period of very hot and dry temperatures. Now, that's going to bring some extremes with fire hazards and much more. A lot of people here in Utah like to go up the canyons that have bonfires, camping, outdoor activities, and much more. With the high, hot temperatures and with it being a dry climate, forest fires or just wildfires in general happen every summer. And with that being said, a lot of times the state will put on some fire restrictions up in the canyons, which can be a little bit of a drag to your outdoor activities that you might want to have. This last summer, my friends and I, we went up to the canyon and we wanted to go camping and have bonfires, outdoor activities, and more. But the state of Utah restricted the bonfires that we could have in the area, which put a hindrance, so we couldn't host any bonfire activities for quite a few months during the summertime. Also for the extreme weather is the snow. During the wintertime, you're going to experience a bunch of snow coming down, and it can be pretty harsh when it comes to driving and traffic. Utah does experience quite a few accidents, especially during the wintertime, because a lot of snow is coming down, and with a lot of people moving here to the state of Utah, they don't really understand what it's like to drive in the snow. Number 2 is going to be the high cost of housing. This last year in 2021, we experienced some of the greatest appreciation with housing prices in the United States. A lot of people were moving back here to the state of Utah to be closer to family, and with all the tech companies coming here, a lot of people were moving here to be closer to their jobs and for a lower cost of living. But that changed with the housing market. Right now, the overall housing price is a lot higher than the average housing price in the United States. So that could be something to consider. But currently, right now, we are experiencing a greater supply of housing, which is bringing that housing prices down a little bit. And people are pulling back, and people are actually dropping their list price because of the oversupply. Number 2 is going to be the high personal income tax. Now, I say that relatively because there are some states that have a high income tax compared to Utah. Utah is one of the minority states that has a flat income tax rate at roughly 5%, but this does put it in the upper quarter of states within the nation. The other thing to keep in mind is that sales tax within the state is roughly at 7%. So if those 2 tax rates are a little bit too much, then maybe consider moving to Nevada. Number 3 is going to be the conservative liquor laws and religion. So if you're someone that likes to go out and party or purchase alcohol just in general, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you. Here in the state of Utah, there's a high population of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or otherwise known as Mormons. Now, Mormons aren't allowed to drink alcohol, and so with that being, typically when you go into grocery stores, you can't find a lot of alcohol. Outside of Utah, you could go into a grocery store and you'll have like a wine selection. Here in Utah, you don't see that. You'll see some smaller selections of like beer, but when it comes to the alcohol selection, it is a little bit more minimal. When it comes to religion, here in Utah, the Mormons also close up shop on Sundays. So a lot of stores, retail, and different shops are going to be closed on Sundays. So if you're not used to that, just keep that in mind that most areas are going to be closed. When you get to the more urban areas like Salt Lake and Provo, a lot of those shops will end up being open anyways. But if you get more rural, and even just some shops in general are just going to be closed on Sundays. And lastly, number 5 is going to be the lack of diversity. Here in the state of Utah, there is a high population of whites, primarily being from ancestors that came from over east and migrating here to the state of Utah. A lot of minorities haven't necessarily moved here, but we are starting to experience a little bit more growth within the minorities. If you are a minority and thrive living in an area that has a high population of your ethnicity, then Utah may or may not be the option for you. There are some areas that have a high population of different minorities, whether it be Black, Asian, or Latino, but for the most part, the diversity here in the state of Utah is relatively low compared to most states. So everybody, that wraps it up. Those are the top 5 pros and cons of why you should or maybe shouldn't move here to the state of Utah. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If it has, hit that like button and let me know down in the comments if there's any other questions that you might consider when it comes to moving to the state of Utah. Like I said, I have been born and raised, and so I've experienced all of this firsthand and know what it's like living here in the state of Utah. If you have any other questions when it comes to living here in the state, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. Here's my contact information, and let's get in touch. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.